Make sure I'm not missing anyone.
Mark Rogers TV, just a few days from National Signing Day on February 4th. Talking UCLA football with Jim Mora, definitely building an elite program in Westwood. They've hit that 10-win ceiling, and we'll see if they can push past it. And this recruiting class, of course, vital to that. We bring in Michael Hanna from Gojo Bruin to talk about the Bruins. Hey, Michael, thanks so much for joining us. Let's look at the big commits, those guys that are really amped up, that seem to be firmly entrenched at this point.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about UCLA recruiting, you're talking about the big fish. I mean, the first guy you got to talk about is Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen, the consensus #1 quarterback in the country. A lot of prognosticators have compared him to having an Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers kind of a ceiling, prototypical pro-style quarterback. But I mean, he's got a little bit of mobility in him as well. The guy is just an absolute phenom, and I would say he's pretty entrenched with the class because he's already enrolled at UCLA, so they're very happy to have him at this point. Let's see, the other big one you want to talk about on the other side of the ball for defense would be 5-star defensive end, outside linebacker. He's basically a 5-star pass rusher is what he is. Keisean Lucier-Smith from Orange Lutheran High School, just 10 minutes up the road from where I am right now, actually. And Keisean, the name of his game is pass rushing. This is probably one of the 2 or 3 best pure pass rushers in the country in this class. The guy he's got a knack for getting to the quarterback. Offensive lineman can't check him because he's got just an amazing first step off the snap. And he's somebody who, at 6'4", 6'5", has really long arms. He's able to disengage blockers really well. And he uses all this to his advantage to get to the quarterback. Now, at UCLA, where they ideally play a 3-4 base defense, it's going to be interesting to see whether they use him as an outside linebacker, considering he's inexperienced in pass coverage, in open space. He's usually, for his high school, been a pure pass rusher. So we'll see what they do with Keisean. But, I mean, his pass rushing skills, I mean, to use the word that I've used with him so far, he's absolutely elite in that regard. So those are the 2 big fish that UCLA has really brought in so far that they know will be Bruins on signing day.
Michael, in running down the ESPN 300, at least their 300 top players, they've got, as you mentioned, Josh Rosen listed as the 50th best player in the country. And again, that's regardless of position, so he's much higher in the quarterback rankings, right up at the elite level, as you mentioned there. Keisean Lucier-Smith, number 22 rated player overall in the country. Again, that's regardless of position, so that we're talking rarefied air. They also have a kid, offensive guard out of Honolulu, Fred Ulu-Perry Jr. Maybe I botched his name, I don't know. And then they've got a kid out of Utah, Andre James, who's rated highly as an offensive tackle, 177 out of the 300, and Ryan Newsome, a wide receiver out of Texas. Any other guys that stand out? Any guys that are kind of dangling out there looking at 3 or 4 or 5 schools that you hope choose the Bruins on that fateful Wednesday?
UCLA still got a couple in the balance, absolutely. Well, the first one that you have to talk about is Soso Jamabo. Depending on the service that you look at, he's either 4 stars or 5 stars. 24/7 Sports' composite rating has him as a 5-star running back. Soso is down to UCLA and Texas. Notre Dame was in the running for a while, but they dropped off in the last couple of weeks or so. And UCLA was his longtime leader. Texas is the school that he grew up rooting for. And Texas, around the turn of the new year, really started to turn the screws on him. And he's really been feeling the Longhorns since then. Now, with his recruitment, the Kyler Murray situation that most recruiting fans know about, the Texas A&M commit who was looking at Texas, he and Kyler Murray are really good friends. And the thought was that if Murray flipped to Texas, Jamabo would be a lock to follow. Since Murray has reconfirmed his commitment to A&M, UCLA still has probably a 50-50 shot with this one, but it seems like the in-state power, Texas, is surging with him. Now, on the other guy that you want to talk about when you're talking about really dangling in the air right now is going to be Chris Clark, the 4-star tight end from Connecticut. He's down to UCLA and Michigan. He was a Michigan commit for when Brady Hoke was there, excuse me. And Harbaugh has tried to re-secure his commitment since he arrived at Michigan, but UCLA has looked pretty good for him since they offered him in mid-November. So that one's going to be another one that UCLA really wants to close on come signing day. They feel probably better about Clark than they do about Jamabo right now, just because with Jamabo there's the local pull of Texas. With Clark, he's from Connecticut. He's going to be leaving the state no matter what. But either way, those are two elite recruits that UCLA really wants to add to its class come signing day.
Talking some UCLA recruiting with National Signing Day coming up very soon with Michael Hanna of Gojo Bruin. Hey, Michael, when you look at this UCLA team, much upgraded in regards to talent since Jim Mora took over. If you look at the 2014 squad and what you lose, where are some of those units and areas on this team where a freshman may step in and get some significant playing time?
The biggest one would be funnily enough, quarterback, because Brett Hundley is going to enter the NFL draft. Josh Rosen is coming in as the favorite to take over for him, actually, as a true freshman. Now, UCLA's quarterback depth chart is not that great, which gives Rosen an opportunity to ascend to the #1 position. But then on top of that, I mean, Rosen is just somebody who is considered by most of the recruiting experts and by UCLA's coaches as someone who's just it really advanced for someone of his age. He's got the arm, he's got the accuracy, he's got a decent amount of mobility for a pro-style quarterback, and then on top of that, the kid is just absolutely whip smart. 4.6 GPA coming out of high school. He took like 4 AP classes as a junior in high school, which is just mind-blowing. The kid has got it all. So most UCLA fans are expecting that the ESPN, I read an article they were talking about when they released their way too early top 25 rankings. They said it would be a battle between Rosen and Jerry Neuheisel, who was Brett Hundley's backup last year. But most UCLA fans are expecting that it won't be a competition as much as a coronation of Rosen in the end. So that's the one where a true freshman is really going to make the biggest impact on the field in 2015 for UCLA. It'll probably be Rosen when UCLA starts their season against Virginia in September.
And that used to be a big, huge reach to think about a freshman quarterback coming in from high school and leading a program, the status of UCLA. But nowadays they prep these kids so well in high school, and they run the pro-style offense or the read option or whatever they're suited for. I know that he's a pocket-style quarterback, so he should fit into the UCLA offense. And they prep these kids, and they go to so many camps, and they're so well-versed as opposed to years ago that it would not be surprising to see him come in and succeed at UCLA. I know that we saw Neuheisel specifically against Texas. That's the one time that I had to look at him when Hundley went down, and they pretty much made him a game manager in that game until he threw the game-winning touchdown pass down the left sideline and made a really nice throw to basically win the game against the Longhorns. Michael, when you look at Jim Mora's effect and impact on this program, is it noticeable? I'm certainly impressed with him. I certainly read all the stories about this being a kind of lax program, especially when you think about a school that competes at the highest level in the Pac-12, that it would be that lax in regards to a sport as tough as football, that the mindset and the approach would be as relaxed as it was, and that Jim Mora came in. He attracted recruits. He's got the NFL resume, which attracts a lot of people, and then he actually made it more of a boot camp style practice, and the results have followed, and now they've gotten to a certain point where I'm sure UCLA fans want to see that big breakthrough competing for a national championship.
I mean, Mark, you absolutely nailed it. It was an amateurishly run program for a very long time. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to why UCLA's athletic department tried to run the program on the cheap, hiring Karl Dorrell and Rick Neuheisel both as coaches for, even at the time, a low salary of under $1 million each, relatively speaking, of course. But with Mora, he has kind of dragged the program kicking and screaming into the modern era of college football. He's brought in a big-time mentality. He's not afraid to go up against the biggest schools for the biggest recruits because he wants that high-level talent to achieve at the highest level. And Mora has definitely instilled a toughness in this program that did not exist for a very long time. UCLA football, as you mentioned, for a very long time was thought of as extremely soft, a pushover program where if you knocked them down a little bit, they weren't going to fight back. But UCLA under Mora, they don't just fight back. They will counterpunch and probably deliver a bigger blow to their opponents than the one that their opponent brought to them. So, I mean, Mora has been an absolutely transformative figure for this program, coming from where UCLA was losing to Lane Kiffin's USC program 50-0 in 2010 to now running off 3 straight wins against, albeit a sanctioned USC team. But the remarkable jump that this program has made has, I mean, it's remarkable, to reuse the word that I just used. And they want to take that next step, obviously. They want to be Pac-12 champions. They want to be playoff entrants. But at the same time, considering where they came from when Mora started to where they are now, it's just been an amazing transformation. It absolutely has been.
Michael, it's a great way to describe it. I just was always stunned and a bit perplexed at why that mindset took hold at UCLA, because it's not like you're trying to drag kids to Nebraska or somewhere like that where you've got this reputation and this standard and this prestige to live up to, but it's very difficult because you don't have the kids in your own backyard and you're trying to drag them to the cold Midwest. As opposed to UCLA, you have a lot of advantages that are inherent. And then you play in the Pac-12 anyway. You play in arguably the best conference in college football, and why not go for it? And again, you have inherent advantages. Why don't you take advantage of the recruiting base and the players there in California when a lot of kids are naturally going to be attracted to that locale?
Mm-hmm. I mean, yep, you said it. UCLA has got just all the advantages in the world. I mean, you're 10 minutes away from the beach in Westwood. You just hop down to Sunset to get to Santa Monica, or to go to Hollywood the other way. You got Beverly Hills in the other direction. Year-round, weather is amazing. I mean, you really cannot beat UCLA as far as a locale, and now that they've brought in a coaching staff worth its salt, I mean, there's not really many excuses for kids to not consider UCLA at this point.
Michael Hanna of Gojo Bruin, the UCLA website, talking some recruiting with National Signing Day coming up. Michael, this is the first time we've had you on. Hopefully we can have you back. Appreciate the information and the insight.
Absolutely. Happy to do it and enjoyed it. And, yeah, anytime you want me, Mark, let me know.